BT had a long-run initiative with the British Film Institute, and you did a range of interactives for that programme. Can you tell me about the time you filmed Malcolm McDowell, please?
Okay, we did a number of websites for BFI Screen Online, which is the BFI's kind of online archive of information about the history of British film and television. Screen Online's one of their sort of core challenges is that they've got this monumental amount of information on the site. I mean, it's just a phenomenal site. If there's anything you want to know about the history of British film and TV, I would be astonished if it's not somewhere on Screen Online. It just goes on and on. It's amazing. But what the Richard Patterson and the team at Screen Online felt was that it was fine if you were hunting for something. If you were like a researcher or an academic or something like that, and you were going and you knew you wanted to get information about the free cinema movement of the 1950s, and you could search on it, then all this information would come up, and that was great. But if you were just a casual browser who didn't particularly know all that much about the history of British film, then it was slightly tricky for you, because there wasn't necessarily all that much that you could find. There wasn't all that much that was kind of presented to you in a sort of easy to digest way. So that was what we were trying to handle. And so what we did was we used the power of getting well-known people in to talk about certain aspects of British film history. So one of the subjects that the BFI wanted to talk about was this entity in British film history called the Free Cinema Movement. And this was a movement which was founded really by the director Lindsay Anderson, who went on to direct If and Oh Lucky Man and other great movies. Lindsay Anderson founded this as a documentary movement in the 1950s, and was very much about trying to kind of cut away all the kind of crap and get to the something kind of more pure, more honest, more sort of thoroughgoing as a way of kind of depicting the world. Now, and the films are quite, I mean, they're not the easiest films in the world to watch, shall we say. I mean, they are quite thoroughgoing, they're quite tough. Okay, so how can we get a wider range of people to be interested in these movies is the question. Well, what we did in the websites that we created for Screen Online was to find well-known people and get them to introduce this to you. So in the case of free cinema, the obvious candidate was Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell was sort of discovered by Lindsay Anderson, I believe, and Malcolm McDowell has a great deal of fondness and respect for Lindsay Anderson. He does an amazing kind of one-man stage show, which is about Lindsay Anderson. So he's done an enormous amount to sort of show his kind of respect and gratitude for Lindsay Anderson. So he's an obvious candidate for talking about free cinema. Now, one thing that people ask about the McDowell pieces: how does the script get produced? What happened with all the BFI pieces was the experts of the BFI would write a normal linear script, and then I would interactivate it. I'd put in the interactive bits. Now, the purpose of the interactivation was to kind of square the circle as far as the BFI Screen Online is concerned, because one of the key challenges Screen Online has is it's got quite difficult material that it's trying to introduce people to, but also it's got a very wide target audience. On the one hand, we need to appeal to sort of bored 16-year-olds who are just doing this for media studies. On the other hand, we need to appeal to film buffs. If we kind of dumb it all down for the 16-year-olds, the film buffs will go nuts. If we just talk to the film buffs in a kind of erudite way, that will lose the 16-year-olds after 30 seconds. So the point of the interactivation was to kind of be able to keep both parties happy. So in the case of the piece with Malcolm McDowell talking about free cinema, almost the first thing you see is McDowell asks you, so, what do you think of if you think of free cinema? And you've got a range of choices from cinema you don't have to pay to see through to documentary films. Now, if you click on the documentary films, then you get, a polite response from McDowell, who says, yes, well, that's interesting, you're absolutely right. And then you are led to a part of the presentation where you're kind of given the whole history of free cinema right from the word go. If you click on films you didn't have to pay to see, then you get the, oh God, I don't know why I waste my time with people like you, McDowell does a lovely job of kind of, rolling his eyes and generally being kind of revolted with these kind of ghastly kind of creatures that he's, having to talk to. So what happens if you're the bored 16-year-old doing it for media studies who's pressed that button? We get you laughing, and then we skip you on ahead. We don't give you all the detail, that the film buffs are going to be into. We skip you on ahead, and we kind of get you kind of deep into the meat of it, so we don't lose you, is the idea. So anyway, so that's what we did with McDowell, and he obviously is a great actor and did a phenomenal job of doing the presentation. And then at the end, there was one part of the script where there was no script. The script just said, "Insert personal story from Malcolm McDowell about Lindsay Anderson." If you get to it, if you want to skip to it, on the navigation there's a tab that says McDowell Remembers. And if you get to it, McDowell tells this fantastic story about Lindsay Anderson, and it's absolutely delightful. But anyway, so that was the piece, and we wrapped it all up and put it online, and it's worked very well. And I think has done a good job of making people aware of free cinema. But obviously that's just a tribute to McDowell's kind of fame and also his phenomenal kind of ability at making a story kind of gripping and interesting.